Roll call vote. Trustee Ron Wilson is not here. Alternate trustee Harry Alcott. Here. Trustee Hartley McIntosh. Trustee Neil Gaynor. Trustee Kyle Mays. Trustee Jan Price. Trustee Ted Stanley.
Here.
Trustee David Smith.
Here.
Trustee Hugh Connett.
Here.
Trustee Bob Lux is me, and I'm here. And Trustee Paul Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have a meeting. We have a quorum. We have an agenda. The opening invocation and the pledges of allegiance are agenda item number 2. Thanks for that, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Help us to work diligently, always for and in the common good and in the best interest of those we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, and decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance, to engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. If you wish to recite further prior to the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to these Texas,
One state under God, one and indivisible.
Any public comments from the public this evening? We have none. Okay, we can move immediately to the consent agenda. The last month's board minutes, the financial reports, and the investment reports. Do we have any discussion items, any questions, need for clarification on any of this?
I'd like to, for item 9 now. I'd like to discuss that.
Item 9,
Item,
on which, I don't understand, David. Help.
I mean, I can, I have some information about that item.
In which report, which,
It's, the minutes from,
oh, the minutes, I'm sorry, forgive me.
minutes. Item 9.
Okay. Consider an act on SJRA fiscal year 2022 excess funds. Okay, thank you. What are your questions? Yes, please.
So, you know, I love, these videotapes are fantastic. So, last month, Mr. Meeks, he's not here unfortunately, stood up here and said that we basically overpaid the water bill by $370,000. And, you know, I asked, is it Ron? He's not here tonight.
Yeah.
I asked him, you know, where that came from, and he said, well, you know, we paid too much. And so, you know, instead of doing that transaction back and forth, you know, we just keep it and throw it out next year. And matter of fact, Bob, you said it's like putting it in escrow. That's
I
what
don't
you
recall saying that, but if you've got the meeting, okay.
The movie. And then, you know, I go to a lot of the SJRA board meetings, and I go to the pipeline meeting. So if you go to that part of the tape where the accounting manager is speaking, and what she's saying is that we authorized the expenditure of that money for a generator on tank number 5 and to pay for a rate study. That we voted to do that. That's what that tape says. And even later, Jess Houston stands up and talks about how the great relationship we have and let them keep that money. But, we put it in escrow. That's what you said. And I agree with you. And 2 weeks later, they spent it. And I don't think that was the intention of this body. You know what I mean? When we voted, that is going to be spent 2 weeks later. It's been, that's what they did. And I was really shocked, to be honest with you, by that. When you look at the dialogue that went along this table and the dialogue that went around their table, it's like night and day difference. And I would like the money back. Okay? And because that's not, our intent was not to spend it on equipment. You know what I mean? But that's what happened.
I can't confirm or deny what you say. I take you at your word, though.
Did we say
sure.
what our intent was to spend it on?
We, in essence, we were silent, except for the fact that Bob says that it's like putting it in escrow. And I don't, not my thought is, okay, it's like a credit on my power bill.
That's right.
And when I have the next month come out, I'll get it spent.
So we would expect them to spend it on some budget item that was
No,
approved, right?
I just thought basically the issue was the way Ron talked was that, instead of sending this money back and forth, between years, next year, it would be used next year. And that's not what happened. And I was really surprised. I don't know what was presented in the budget committee, but that's not what was discussed here with this item. And if you doubt me,
I don't doubt you. I'm sure I
watch the tape. I
don't
watched-
recall that.
Yeah,
that
I watched it
exchange.
beforehand.
Paul, can you comment, please?
Yeah, so this is an annual accounting. My suggestion would be to wait, get an explanation from San Jacinto River Authority. I have no idea what you're talking about their board taking action. So I just don't have any visibility on that.
They voted to spend the money.
I don't have any visibility into that end of the discussion. So this is an annual accounting. They can transfer, in this case, this year, $370,000 back to Woodlands Water. And then the following year, we turn around, and send it back. So rather than go through that procedure or procedures, the audit committee recommended that we just leave it there in escrow for the following year. That's our recommendation. That's what I voted on in this body.
So I think we need somebody from River Authority to speak, but from what I recall from this and from previous years is that the River Authority brings to the audit committee and then subsequently to the board a list of projects that need to be funded over the next year that will be funded out of the rates. And so either they would retain a portion of the excess from the prior fiscal year to help pay for the infrastructure that will be purchased upcoming, that would have to have an increased wholesale rate to pay for that, or they retain those funds and pay for a portion of that with the retained funds. So I think that's what Paul was speaking to, is if the money goes back to the MUDs, then the River Authority still has the same infrastructure that has to be funded, but then they have to raise the wholesale rates by an incremental higher amount to be able to pay for that portion that would have been paid for with the refunded amount. But I think we need somebody from the River Authority to speak to that. But that's my recollection of what the process has been and what the justifications are, if it's retained or if it's refunded back. Because otherwise, just to escrow it, that doesn't really make any sense. I mean, why you would escrow it for no reason and have them earn the interest versus you, that doesn't make sense if it's not being used for a particular project. But we need them to speak as well.
And I can also offer, there was a memo and that was addressed to me in one of the prior trustee meeting packets that did outline how they intended to use that. That may not have been referred to last month, but we could pull that and have this maybe as a discussion item next month to go through and kind of recap how it went, all the facts and the data that was submitted, and maybe give a better explanation that way.
Thank you very much, David, for shedding light on that topic. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this same policy is used with excess funds with the WWA. So this is not some new thing that's happened. We have done this every year, and we have a policy on excess funds that covers this. And we vote on either they give us the excess funds above a certain amount, or we can give it back to them so that they can use it in their own way at their discretion. We do it both in the WWA and San Jacinto River Authority. So this is nothing new. It's been going on for years.
I think you'd expect that to be done within a budget that has been approved. I mean, that's fine. If the generator is something that wasn't in the budget, wasn't planned, and now it is planned because of the excess funds, and I think that's where you're,
But that's why.
and that's where I would react the same way if that's what happened. I don't think we know. That quid pro quo sounds a little.
Yeah, and there was no reason for them to tell you what they were going to use the funds for, but they did.
Well, they did at their budget. They can avoid me.
Yeah, I think if I'd known that it was just gonna go back and be spent the very next month, we may have had a little different conversation internally here. I think the escrow kind of comment got me feeling like, well, yeah, there's money that goes back and forth every year, a couple $100,000. Let's just let it roll and see what it looks like next year. And then if that's not the case, then maybe it's something a little different. I don't know.
General Manager Peterson, would you make sure that this is an agenda item on next month's Board of Trustees meeting?
Noted.
Thank you. Anything else, David?
No.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
casting light on
Good
that.
heads up.
Further discussion on any of the agenda items? Can I receive a motion to approve the consent agenda? Trustee Martin, second?
Second.
Second, Trustee Gainer. Okay, all in favor, further discussion required? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, receive the monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including updated infrastructure funding plan and the wastewater street strategic plan. Update in summer. Good evening.
Read the SJRA report beginning on page 17 of your packet. As of today, I don't have an update on the infrastructure funding. On page 24 of your packet, you will see that there's a save the date for a series of all MUD meetings that we will be hosting to give you updates on the second phase of the strategic plan. And on page 24, you will see an update on the Spring Creek detention study. We will be hosting a meeting on May 2nd at the township. If there are any questions on the monthly operating report, I can be happy to answer those for you. Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna do, and I don't know if you can answer them. If not, maybe we just circle back. On page 18. And I think I know the answer. This is the rolling 12-month loss,
Yes.
water loss, which is good to see that it's down. I know when we rolled through some of the metering, the unaccounted for loss versus total loss. I guess I'd like to understand, like, what goes into the unaccounted for loss. If that's what's left after you've metered everything, and you have a difference between the ins and outs, and you just put it all together and say, well, that's just, we don't know where it is. It could be leaks. If it's non-metered differential.
It could be, fires, it could be, exercising the hydrants that we did in February. Those different types of things that we just kind of can't put our finger on is what the unaccounted is. I can get a list for you together of what we consider unaccounted for next week, if you wish.
Yeah, if it's handy, I want you to, I don't want to create work. I don't know if that's in line, or I have some experience with unaccounted for losses, and I'm just curious how that's tracked. And then the second question I have is on the wastewater data, which is the next page, page 19, wastewater treatment facility number 3. Looks like it's a little high on chlorine permit versus reported. 1.0 is permitted, the reported was 1.13. Same thing with the the min and the max. So is that in line, or am I just seeing something that looks odd? Does it always look like this?
He said it was in line. He will be here next week and he can dive down more in the operation of it. I know that 3 is our smallest plant, so it's a little bit different, but he can give you the more in-depth operating details on that.
Okay.
And I'll
That's-
flag it.
That's
and let him
fine.
know
It just
if that's a
stuck
question.
out to me. That's all. The other ones are always, everything's always in line here. This just seemed like it's right at the
Mhm.
limit. On both ends, so. I don't know why that one has a min and a max versus then the other ones don't. There's a reason for it, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. Thank you.
Anything else I can help you guys with today?
Thank you, Summer.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Agenda item, 8, again, Spring Creek Detention Study. You've touched on that already, Summer. Meeting on, April 20th, 6 to 8 at the township. Jim, refresh my memory. Who are the funding partners? 386, 60.
7, 6, and 1.
Okay, and of course, 386, right?
Yes.
And City of Humble. It would be nice if the aforementioned who are the funding partners, if you could make sure that you have, if not the trustee for this, represent your MUD or have some of the directors there, as well as talk to your residents about that, making them aware that this is going on and their input is valuable. So that's the end of that. Okay, agenda item number 9, receive the attorney's report. Brian? Good evening.
Just give update this evening. So as of beginning of this week, there have been almost 8,000 bills introduced. That's a 15% increase over the last session. There were under 7,000 bills. And even 2 sessions ago, there were only 7,300. So this is a lot of bills. And not a lot have made it to the finish line so far. There have been a little under 200 bills that have passed the Senate so far and only 27 that have passed the House. So a lot going on right now. You probably see a lot in the news of the back and forth between the House and the Senate on the property tax reform. The Senate trying to push a program that would increase the school property tax exemptions from 40,000 to 70. And then on the House side, the push to reduce the appraisal cap from 10% to 5%, but make it applicable to all properties, not just homestead properties. That would be pretty consequential. I think there's a lot of concern about the implications of that over the longer term, how that would create an imbalance between newly purchased commercial or other properties versus ones that have had that cap on them for a while. We'll see how it shakes out, but hadn't been resolved yet. So that's a big issue out there, along with the vouchers and for school choice. So those are taking up a lot of the oxygen in the room. As far as in our world, mud world, there's a number of bills that are floating around. We talked about that AWBD is tracking, and otherwise, so a handful of bills I kind of touching on this evening. One, the bill we talked about last time that relates to qualification for directors that would remove the ability of directors who are residents but do not own property. That bill has made it out of committee. So it looks like it has some legs, certainly in the House. We'll see what happens on the Senate side, but I don't know what individual directors in the Woodlands have for their qualification, if they're homeowners or renters, but this would bump the ability of renters to be able to serve as directors, if we're not homeowners, whether it's the Woodlands or otherwise. So we're certainly tracking that one. That's pretty consequential. Bills moving that would update the ladder of requirements for when you have to competitively bid projects. You may recall several years back, the thresholds between getting a competitive bid from, I think it was 25 to 50,000, and then anything over 50 had to be competitively bid. That was changed to anything under 25. You just got one bid. Between 25 and 75, you get 3 bids. Over 75, you got competitively bid. The bill that's circulating and getting some movement right now would change the $75,000 threshold to $250,000, and change the 25,000 threshold, I'm sorry, the 50,000 threshold to the 75. So anything between 75 and 250, you would get 3 bids, but wouldn't have to go out and publicly advertise. Anything under 75, you could just get 1 bid and move on a project. So that could impact us, perhaps save money for districts that might have to competitively advertise some smaller projects. But we'll see if that is able to make its way through the Senate as well. But it's got some movement on the House side.
Does that apply to all state government?
It applies to districts, special purpose districts. No, it's in the water code.
It's in that code.
Yes, sir. Let's see here. There's a bill that's got a little bit of traction to possibly expand the ability to have remote or video meetings if the presiding officer is in the location of the public meeting. The language in the bill is a bit vague, so it's not entirely clear how that bill would function. So we're tracking that one. I know there's been interest over time about the interest of directors to be able to meet remotely. So we're tracking that. That would certainly attract a good bit of interest if it were to make it through both sides. But it's been reported favorably out of committees. So we'll see how that one goes as well. That got out of committee this week. Let's see here. The bill that was introduced in the Senate had been introduced in the House in previous sessions by Senator Middleton, previously Representative Middleton, to prohibit the use of public funds for lobbying, has passed the Senate. It has gone to the floor. It passed, I think it was 19-12. And so it has moved over to the House. That would certainly be a consequential bill that would prohibit the use of public funds to be able to participate in lobbying efforts. We'll have to see how far ranging that would be if it would apply to trade organizations that may receive funding from governmental entities, even as far as AWDA. So we're going to be watching to see how that works. That would be pretty consequential. Bills made it out of committee that would require bond elections to only be held in November. So we've talked about that one as well.
Would that be done?
That would prohibit the ability to have a bond election in May. So right now there's 2 uniform election days.
That only
May,
applies to
November.
bonds.
It would only apply to bonds. That's correct. I think those are the highlights right now. The bill, what we call the omnibus bill, that would make some updated changes to various provisions that impact water districts, including the per diem provisions that we talked about before. That is still pending in committee. It has not received a hearing yet, so we're watching that as well. So a lot of stuff. I mean, out of 7,000 plus bills, it's just a handful of them, but that's kind of the highlights for now. Happy to answer questions. There was also a question about, I think it was House Bill 3820. That related to the North Harris Regional Water Authority. That one has been referred to committee to House Natural Resources, but it has not received a hearing yet. So that's the one that would take the North Harris County Regional Water Authority out of the jurisdiction of the Harris Galveston Subsidence District. I know there's certainly some folks that have some concerns about that bill. So we are tracking it and been visiting with staff about it as well. So that's all I got.
Thank you. That's plenty. If we weren't concerned before, we certainly are now on a number of fronts. Thank you,
Yep.
Brian. General Manager's report. Mr. Eric Peterson, please.
Good evening. Wanted to report, happy to report that finally settled with TACUS on the pending litigation. So that has been signed and approved. And so we'll be moving forward with those districts that had damage and have some reward coming back or some reimbursement coming back. We'll be working through the bill back, and then also the credits to get those to the MUDs that affected. So that'll be going forward. I wanted to update everyone on the One Water. We reported last month that there was some planning meeting discussion. It then went in front of the township board, who voted to move forward with resurrecting the One Water group. So we met with the township a couple of weeks ago and just kind of brainstormed, just behind the scenes, to brainstorm what that might look like. And so that's going to be developing as we go forward as to how it gets resurrected, kind of who's involved. And really, I think we all agree that the biggest thing to look at is what the One Water would focus on, what the goals would be, and clearly define those so that the group can make some headway moving forward. Wanted to point out a few articles in the packet. There's several this time related to water, in particular, lead service lines. You'll see in there some things that John has put out as well. So it might be worth looking at some of those things if we've got time. Wanted to point out one of our employees, who's not gonna like me saying this, but Maureen, I wanted to point out, has reached a couple weeks ago her 25th anniversary of service working for Women's Water.
Congratulations.
Look at that hiring. We're
12 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I was going younger than that, Trustee Martin. We have to look at our hiring laws. We have to violated some law there back 25 years ago. Child labor.
On the article that was included in packets, there's a comment about concern about potential lack of ongoing collaboration between the Woodlands and the water entities such as the municipal utility districts, Harris County Flood Control, and San Jacinto River Authority. But was there a discussion about where this concern is that the MUDs and SJRA, for example, are not collaborating and working? Where's that coming from?
I don't know. When we spoke to the township staff, that did not come up. That's not something that we heard. I read it in the article. But
Yeah. Okay.
I think from what I've heard, and I obviously wasn't around, was that there was thoughts as time progressed with the One Water, was that it had accomplished some things in the drainage area realm, and it was kind of getting stagnant. And then COVID hit, and it just kind of was stagnant.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
but I hadn't heard what you read as well.
Yeah, it's just
That's a Brad Bailey question.
Brad Bailey.
Trustee, township trustee.
Board Director Brad Bailey's with our.
it's somewhere. I'm just curious.
Jim and I did reiterate to township staff that we are committed to working with the township and the other entities that will be involved. And identifying what the scope will be and working towards that final goal.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
I think that's all I had.
Very good. Thank you. Peterson. Agenda item 11. I'm going to start a little bit out of order here. Well, we'll stick with this order. The Personnel Committee did meet, and Trustee Connett is going to address what the discussion was about in agenda item 12. So we can move to the Audit and Finance Committee. Trustee Wilson isn't here. Trustee Martin is going to give the report of that meeting.
I just want to touch on 3 different points here. Number one, the committee met on March 29th to review with San Jacinto River Authority and management here to look at the revised 10-year project plan. And that plan will be presented at the MUD meetings next week. We will meet on May 1st to review a draft budget of the San Jacinto River Authority operating budget for fiscal year 24. And we hope that's going to be better news this year than it was last year. We've been given some hints that maybe might be the case. I don't want to say anything more at this point. Number 3 is on the accounting package that we've talked about for several months now. There was a series of about 50 plus questions that were generated internally through the staff, and rightfully so. Maureen wants to get all of the departments involved on board and get their questions answered, and that was part of that list. And we've received responses to all but about 2 or 3 major issues, and we're waiting for those. And as soon as those are in, senior management will do then a review before it's presented to the audit committee. That's the update.
Very good. Thank you, Trustee Martin. Public Education Committee, Trustee Gaynor.
Yes, as discussed last time, a draft plan from staff on Woodlands Water and SGRA is now in the works. And that's basically to provide education to the public on large projects such as the wastewater treatment plant #1 replacement. And I understand staff will meet, Woodlands Water staff will meet with SGRA on April 17, Monday. Is that right, Tom?
17.
Yes. Okay, very good. And the Public Education Committee is set to meet on April 20th to review, once we get that draft in more final form.
RFP,
Okay.
draft RFP.
And hope to bring recommendations to the board at the May meeting. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Trustee Gaynor. Okay. Go to agenda item number 12, please. Consider an act on Personnel Committee recommendation to revise the WWA employee handbook regarding holidays. Take it away, Trustee.
Yeah, I'll kick this off. I believe there's been a review in progress for a while to just compare holiday benefits for WWA employees with other companies and kind of similarly situated companies in the area. And so that was done, and you have in your hand, most of you should have an email which kind of went around to the personnel committee that Eric had put together to look and see, well, what does the current holiday plan benefit look like and what could be proposed? And right now there's a total of 10 holidays that are offered, 9 fixed and 1 floating holiday. And those have been in place for a while. And so it makes good sense to compare what other entities are doing in the area, considering morale and being competitive and things like that for any entity. So this makes good sense to review this. Proposal was made to drop the floating holiday and to, which would take you back to 9, then add 3 fixed holidays to get to a number of 12. You can see the list in the email, kind of what some neighboring areas other companies have. There's 11 days for Howard Hughes. The appraisal district has 11, 12 for Montgomery County, 14 for the city of Oak Ridge, 12 for San Jacinto River Authority, 11 for South Montgomery County, 11 for the Woodlands Township. The personnel committee reviewed this. We asked some questions about dropping the floating holiday, thinking is that popular or not. It turns out to be administratively difficult. It's a challenge to handle anything, but you've got floating and somebody can claim it. Yeah, I did take it or I never did. And they're gone for a day or whatever. So, and it wasn't as beneficial as maybe originally thought. Sometimes it's hard to take that around other holidays because it gets busy. One of the things that was brought up was that during these holidays that would be added, and there's going to be a 2-step process. So we're in the current 2023. I think the idea would be that we'd keep the floating holiday for 2023, add Veterans Day, since the other proposed holidays have already passed. And this will really kick off 2024, be the full use of the 12 fixed holidays, which would be updated in the employee manual. So that's the basis of the discussion. The personnel committee reviewed it, supported it. And so we bring it here for discussion.
We're making a motion
Yes.
to,
Go from
From
10 to 12.
to 12.
I see.
and eliminating the,
And do we have the financial implication of giving people 2 more days of holidays? Do we have a financial implication of that?
The other relevant point was those days that we're
Very-
adding are very, very low traffic in terms of customer service needs and those kind of things.
Yes, one of the things we considered was what happens on those days when we're here. Because ultimately we want to be available to the customer, and that's why we're here. We want to serve them. And it turns out that on those days, most people, even though they have the day off, they realize that their banks are closed. Many other things are closed, and they're not coming here to pay their bills on those days. So it's a very, very, very slow days for us on those days. So that was definitely part of the consideration.
So we have a motion to,
I moved to accept.
The committee met on this, right?
yes,
And the committee's recommendation is a motion
yes,
to increase to 12 days.
yes.
the proposal that is in the handout.
Is there any discussion? Call the roll.
You had a question.
Yeah, your point, I don't think is,
Right?
I don't think your point was
Yeah,
ever
was your-
discussed.
No, they did discuss it. He said that if people come in, they don't do anything on those days. That's what he said. That's what our general manager said, that on those days, they don't do any work.
That's not what he said.
I know that's.
Well, that's basically what
He
was
said there's not
said.
a lot of external traffic coming through that door for people who are looking for services from the Woodlands Water Agency, paying their bills, asking questions
Yeah,
about
I
this and that.
understand.
That's what he
I
said.
understand. I understand.
That's what I heard. So you're asking about the financial implication of adding 2 holidays. That was your question.
Yeah, I don't know what the financial implication
Is
is.
this gonna
Of
add
giving
costs to the
people-
budget?
2 more days off. Okay. Paid holidays, all right. What's financial implication? And I think I would like to know that, but I'm ready to vote without that information.
Correct me if I'm wrong, general managers, please, but these are salaried personnel, are they not? That were, I don't think any.
Hourly and salaried.
They are hourly, yeah, and then, but the majority of the employees are,
They would be paid holidays, so there's no
there's-
increase in financial, you just lose some productivity, I guess you could say, during the days that you're not here.
So an hourly employee gets 8 hours pay.
Right.
Except for the hourly employee.
They will continue to get.
Yes, and how many hourly employees do we have?
I don't know, I have to verify that.
Did you guys look at the city of Conroe? That's a big entity.
I did not. Did you,
We did not.
Trustee Peterson?
I see that would get us in line with San Jacinto River Authority. And less than the county, which has 14 days.
Less than the school district.
You satisfied? Are you satisfied with the information you've received, or do you have concerns? Would you like further discussion?
I don't need any further discussion.
Okay, well then we can call the question. All in favor of the motion as it's presented to change the holidays to be in line with others, and what is it going to 12? Signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, trustee Connett. Okay, agenda item 13. No need to recess, okay. Aside from the matter regarding the withheld funds and the use of them by SJRA. Is there anything else that we would need to put on future agendas at this time? Hearing none. Move this meeting adjourned.
Job.
Thank you.
Thank you.